Seomra Beag.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to An Seomra Beag, the tiny room. I am the Michael of the podcast, Michaelandbenjaminspodcast, and I am joined by the man who was the inspiration for the phrase, "It's all about the Benjamins." It's Benjamins.
Hi.
Yeah, you really...
That's my own fault there.
Screw the pooch
I'm
there.
sorry, I was looking at facts and figures and statistics. I was trying to be prepared for the podcast. I'm sorry.
Ben, you were too focused on preparing for the podcast that you forgot to line up the theme music.
Theme music for the podcast. We don't actually have any theme music.
Very good. Ben, you will have noticed, Ben, that I've shortened the theme music slightly this week.
Have you?
Yeah, so that it just stops after we don't have any theme music. Because it's very good, it's very entertaining, but possibly a bit too long.
Oh.
Yeah, so now that I've said that on the recording, I have to do it, or else that sounds weird.
Yeah, you forced yourself.
Exactly. See what I've done there? Ben.
Setting up fail proofs, yeah.
Speaking of Hobbs and Shaw,
Ooh.
which I know we weren't.
No, we definitely were, Michael. That was a seamless segue.
Did you see the rumours that Vanessa Kirby from Hobbs and Shaw is being tapped to play Catwoman in Matt Reeves' Batman?
I'm going to have to look up who Vanessa Kirby is.
She's the lady from Hobbs and Shaw.
There are many women in Hobbs and Shaw.
She's
the blonde lady in
the
Hobbs
blonde
and Shaw.
lady.
That's a very Michelle Pfeiffer-esque.
I think it's a very good call.
Tap.
Ben, it gets my seal of approval.
Well, it would, wouldn't it? It's
and
a
my
sexy blonde cat lady.
My seal of approval, Ben, is made of mostly sweat.
Oh.
That's what seals it.
Oh.
It's pretty gross.
That's disgusting.
But yeah, I think that's a good call. She has an interesting face.
She's got a very feline face.
She has an interesting face, and
The
she's an
right
attractive
kind
lady.
of feline. Would have watched her in the ill-fated Broadway musical adaptation Cats.
Cats.
She looks more like a cat than the actual cat people.
Taylor Swift, for example. Cats is still freaking people out.
Yeah, it's very enjoyable.
We're far from the only popular culture podcast
to touch upon this.
To be going on about.
I think it's the big news. It's interesting. I watched one of the videos on the YouTube.
Go on.
From the Corridor crew, and the Corridor.
Your favourite lads.
I'm a big fan.
Sound bunch of lads.
They analysed it from the point of view that technically it's actually fairly flawless CGI.
Spectacular.
And the problem is that they were sent to cat school, which I didn't know this.
Right.
So all of their movements are inhuman.
I disagree with that. They're just dancing.
No, but even in how they walk towards gates and things, the thing that might be freaking people out more than anything else,
I think it's their
that they
sexy cat
move
bodies.
wrong.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. It's their sexy cat bodies, Ben.
Sexy cat bodies.
Sexy cat nude bodies.
It's weird. It's just weird. I don't like
tiny little sexy people. Ben is holding his phone up doing some research, but it looks like he's just taking loads of pictures of my chest.
I am. I'm a big fan of mixed chest. It's lovely.
What are you doing, you weirdo? You looking stuff up?
Yeah, I'm just looking up figures.
Yeah, so anyway, Ben, Vanessa, speaking of things that aren't really in our wheelhouse, Ben.
Yes.
This week, I've been watching something which is quite tangential to our main focus, but some people would argue it's not outside of it's Veronica Mars, Ben. I've been watching Veronica Mars.
You did very good there now.
Thanks. Ben, Veronica Mars is a very, very, very interesting story of a production, I feel.
Okay.
Go on, ask me to go on.
Go on.
Because, Ben, it was a TV show.
Yes.
Of 3 seasons.
'Twas.
2 seasons, a very kind of dark noir high school thing.
'Twere.
And then a kind of light and fluffy 3rd season where they were in college.
'Twas.
Then it disappeared.
Tid.
And it had its fans, its marshmallows.
Tid.
And then it came back as a crowdfunded movie.
Did it?
Which was very fan servicey, as you would say.
'Twas it?
And it had a happy ending.
Twit it.
Stop it now. And then it disappeared again.
Okay.
And now it's back again as a more adult series on the Hulu.
On the Hulu?
Yeah. So it has, in one form or another, been running for 15 years, 16 years.
That's odd, isn't it?
Even though it only has 3.5 seasons of content and a movie. It's a very interesting pop culture phenomena.
It does. Phenomena.
There you go. Very good. And Ben, I watched season 4, and the reason that we're talking about it really is because it touches on. Are you still looking stuff up?
I'm just enjoying it here, but I'm listening to you like a hawk.
You're not.
Hawks don't listen very
No,
well.
eyes of the hawk, ears of the wolf. We'll come back to that later. No, that's completely wrong.
And I'm listening the wolf.
No, Ben, I was doing the theme tune from bloody Brave Star.
Brave Star.
Stop it now.
That's not even...
It touches on a thing that you find very interesting.
Go on now.
It touches on... You're quite happy this week after last week's depressing episode. Are you back on your medication? You weirdo.
If I did suffer from severe mental health, there would be no shame and stigma in that, dear listeners.
Yeah.
It would be perfectly fine if I was back on my
So
medication.
don't take Ben's body shaming to heart. What was I saying?
I was taking pictures of your magnificent chest moments
thank you
ago.
very
If
much.
anyone is anti-body shaming, it's Ben Gollaby.
Tiny nipples, though.
Yeah,
like a
well,
rat.
look, that was pointed out to me earlier in the day. I've never actually paid that much attention to your nipples,
No, they're
much
very
to your
small.
chagrin.
They're very small. They're like a rat's nipples.
Really? Rat
What?
nipples, ripples.
What are we talking about? Yes. it
Something
has-
that I'm very fond of.
Yeah, it's something that touched close to your heart.
Go
a
on.
fan backlash, Ben.
I love toxic fan bases, Michael. They do so stir my coffee. Go on.
Go on, right. So we're going to do a spoilers here for Veronica Mars season 4.
Okay.
So we'll give a little spoiler break there.
Prepped.
Oh, very good.
Spoiler break.
Spoiler break. Go away.
And here we go.
Okay, we're back. Veronica Mars's long-term on-again, off-again, will he, won't he, bad boy love interest is killed in the final scene. Yeah. And let me tell you, Ben, the bloody marshmallows not happy with creator, director, writer Rob Thomas.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Who's her on again, off again?
Logan Eccles. He was a bad boy. He's played by noted character actor Jason Doring. He was also in bloody iZombie as essentially the same character.
He's pretty great.
He's a handsome man.
You and your good lady friend have a very similar watching pattern.
What do you mean?
Because she loves an iZombie as well. And she's
Well,
a
we-
huge Veronica Mars fan.
We live in the same house, Ben, so we often watch
Is
the same
that a
things.
very handsome man?
I don't know. As you know, Ben, I'm bad at judging this.
I don't think. I would argue that you are a more handsome man than that man.
Oh, good.
And I would be happier to see you play the bad boy love interest
Thanks, Ben.
of one Veronica Mars.
Thanks a lot,
As
Ben.
opposed to this.
I'll give you those 50 later.
I've never understood the term pinhead as an insult, and now I do.
He didn't used to be that buff, but he got quite buff and now has a tiny head. Anyway, Ben, he was the bad boy, love interest, rebel, motorcycle boy, rich kid, doesn't care about anyone,
Classic.
love interest. And for a long time, everyone wanted Veronica to get with him. And then in the last season, they found happiness together.
Oh.
And then he got blown up.
Oh.
And, oh, Ben.
Will there be a big twist, though, in the next season?
Well, you know, you could say about TV, no body, no...
Yeah, no body, no death.
We didn't see a body.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's no body, there's no death.
Yeah, sometimes when there's no body, it's...
There's also fire.
Yeah, or... no, I haven't got anything good for that.
Explosions are the classic way to kill someone without actually killing them.
Especially it happened largely off screen.
Sure, look, we're going to see him in season 5. It'll be fine.
It'll be grand. But yeah, the fans not happy, Ben. They're very angry.
Do you think he'll have amnesia and they'll do a Winter Soldier type arc on him?
I don't think it's that type of show.
Well, it'll be bad, Logan.
It would
Well,
be-
apparently we blow up all happy love interests now.
It
So
would be- well, I mean, the whole season was about a bomber.
well,
the
sure, look, that fits, doesn't
The
it?
mystery was the bomber. The mystery box of the season was who's the bomber.
Who's the bomber? Bloody bombers.
It was Patton Oswalt.
Oh, I love Patton Oswalt.
It had Patton Oswalt in it this season and
very
J.K.
cool.
Simmons.
Oh, I love J.K. Simmons.
And J.K. Simmons was a kind of mafia fixer sort of guy.
That's fantastic.
And every now and then he would be like, I want you to get me pictures of every lowlife in this town. You're like, you mean Spider-Man?
You mean Spider-Man?
You want us to get you pictures of Spider-Man?
That's what you want, isn't it? That is what you want, isn't
You
it?
mean Spider-Man, don't you, J.
Jonah.
Jameson? What does the J in J. Jonah Jameson stand for?
John Jonah Jameson? I don't know. It's not James Jonah Jameson, surely.
I don't know. Look, to be honest with you, I don't know.
JJ. It's just JJ to us.
Anyway, it's good though. I'd watch.
Worth a watch?
I liked season 4 of Ben. You've kind of hit the nail on the head. I didn't really watch these because I'm particularly excited by them. They're more of my lady friend sort of thing. And it was my favourite of the Veronica Mars content. Content is king, Ben. Everything is content.
Everything is content.
Quote our friend Cron from Croncraft.
We here at the Michael and Benjamin's podcast produce
It's not
quite a...
the Michael and Benjamin's one.
We
For
hear
the
it.
last time.
We here at Michael and Benjamin's podcast produce quite a bit of content.
Arguably too much.
Arguably too much, but if you want to check out any of that content, check it out on SeomraBeag.com or Instagram or iTunes or Spotify
Spotify or SoundCloud or Podbean or just
or just too many places.
the bottom of any barrel.
Head down to your local Tesco and look in the bargain bin, and there we are.
Find a barrel, just scrape the bottom of it. There's our little faces.
There's our little faces grinning up at you.
Now, speaking of scraping the bottom of the barrel, Ben, because we were quite low on content this week, I bought a comic book.
You got a comic book?
I bought one, Ben. I bought the comic book Neil Gaiman's The Eternals.
Oh.
Ben, on the basis that it's probably going to be that which will form the basis of the storyline for the new...
Oh, we're going off a Gaiman adaptation.
You know, people said that Guardians of the Galaxy, when it came out, what a risk. What a bizarre thing to do. So odd.
What a risk.
And then people said, look, it's based on the new Abnett run.
Dan Abnett.
Abnett. And to be honest, it wasn't really, was it, Ben?
No.
I mean, it took the core team from that.
But did it take anything else, Michael?
Did it take the theme?
Probably not.
I don't know, because I can't remember the Dan Abnett
I don't
run.
remember the Dan Abnett run at all.
It had Quasar in it. And
I never got Quasar as a character.
It's just negabands. No, that's...
Sometimes it's a man. You see, Quasar's sometimes a man.
Yeah, sometimes a lady.
Sometimes a lady.
Sometimes evil.
Sometimes evil, sometimes
There's a little
not.
kind of group of Marvel cosmic characters who all look and act very similar.
Yes.
Quasar, Adam Warlock,
Yes.
Captain Marvel, you know, all of those lads. Get rid of them.
They're no good.
But anyway, I bought Neil Gaiman's The Eternals, Bent. I'd give it an old read.
Any good?
It's actually pretty good, you know.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'd expect no less from Neil.
Neil Gaiman's pretty good, isn't he?
He's do you know what? He's one of the few that have been consistent from that Great British Invasion. Everything Warren Ellis writes gets cancelled, or he just stops doing it eventually.
The Wildstorm is pretty good. We're both enjoying that.
It's about time, but everything else that he writes, he kind of gives up on halfway through. Bloody Injection finished on a cliffhanger, and I'm still not forgiving him.
Did it?
Oh yeah, he's always there going, it's coming back, lads. It's coming back.
It's coming back,
And
you wee bastards.
I think poor Declan Shelby is there going, no, it's coming back, lads. It's coming back. As soon as I get Warren on the phone, it's coming back.
I just want to draw pictures of Dublin again.
That's all he wants. But nah, it's not coming back. On quick side note, bloody Alan Moore's return from comics.
Oh yeah, we were going to do an Alan Moore episode.
Yeah, we did an
forget to
Alan
do
Moore
that?
episode. It's there somewhere.
Oh, you know what we will do though?
Go on
We'll do an Things Alan Moore Hates episode.
Yeah, we should do that.
Where we go back and look at all the stuff he hated and go, that's actually pretty good.
That's actually pretty good. Shut up, Alan Moore.
You big jerk.
You're no longer relevant. We can't get you on the podcast anymore. You've retired.
But speaking of things Alan Moore didn't like, Neil Gaiman, or were they mates?
They're mates.
Are they? All right.
They're mates.
Well, yeah, Ben, The Eternals is pretty good. It has very much the structure of a film. And because the idea of it is that the Eternals have been brainwiped. Well, reality has been altered.
Oh.
By someone mischievous.
Oh.
And
a Thanos or something.
No, it's actually another Eternal, as it turns out. But reality has been altered, so most of the Eternals don't remember their Eternals.
Goodness.
And then the story is them gradually, one by one, realising their Eternals and their powers reactivating and so on.
Goodness.
And it would suit a screenplay very well, and it would be a decent enough way to reintroduce them.
'Tis an in media res journey of discovery.
Exactly, and you could do a thing where that's why they weren't around, because they didn't bloody know they were super people.
There's a hidden expanded world.
Yeah.
You've Infinity War proofed the entire script, so to speak.
Exactly.
Look at...
Did you read the theory about how they're going to reintroduce Blade?
No.
The theory. Did we talk about this?
Yes, we did. We talked about it last week.
The idea being that because the Thanos wiped out half of all life, that didn't include half of all vampires, because vampires are dead. So that during that grim 5 years, where there was no one at football matches and
stuff,
yeah,
and people were going on dates and crying.
Exactly, the crying years,
the crying dates. Yeah.
During those 5 years, vampires were able to repopulate after their decimation in the early years of vampire hunters.
That's very good, isn't it?
Isn't that quite
I
clever?
like that. That's just clever enough.
Just nerdy
to get past
enough.
Me.
Just
a
little sprinkle, a little picante sprinkle of a bit of nerdy sauce.
A spicy sprinkle of nerdy sauce.
It is.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Oh, I'm well on board for that.
Isn't that a great idea?
I'm looking forward to seeing I have to admit, oddly enough, one of the two things I'm very excited for, having watched a few videos breaking down the different panels and things, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, kind of want to see that now.
Yeah.
And Blade. Can't wait to see Blade. I love the original Blade movies.
They're very good.
They're great.
3 is a bit hit or miss, but
that's because he was having a big spat with the production team.
You've seen that clip. We've talked about it before.
The
where
CGI
he
eyes.
just opened his eyes. Yeah. Brilliant. Absolutely amazing. Benjamin, though.
Yes.
Did you see the fan poll that was done? Asking people what their most anticipated Phase 4 movie was.
No.
It was very interesting. The winner was Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
I think that's probably just Cumberbitches getting on board.
But right, that was like number 1. Blade was number 2.
Okay, oh, that's
right?
me.
And they were like, let's say about 30% each.
Okay, that's
And
pretty good.
Yeah, and then the third one was the other one, the other exciting announcement.
The Eternals?
No, the Eternals was the least anticipated, with something like 1.2% of the vote.
That somewhat makes sense, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To an MCU-based universe, Blade we have kind of a basis for, because there's 3 movies before this.
And a TV show, and Sticky Fingers.
I've never seen the TV show.
It's not great.
Actually. But that's interesting, isn't it? So that has a basis. Stephen Strange, obviously, look, we all have... I think that was quite a successful movie, despite the fact that it would have been a little-known character at the time.
Yeah, I think it made something like $680 million at the box office, which at the time was pretty good.
Yeah.
But in the current Marvel...
In the current climate...
If it doesn't bust $1 billion...
What a flop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is mad.
Which is weird. That's a lot of money. I think I read the other day that Disney bought it for $5 billion, and it's made $18 billion for them to date.
Look, Ben.
Like, that's a phenomenal investment. Look at that.
The thing is, though, like, if you really want to invest, you don't invest in movies.
God, no.
They're not that big a moneymaker, really.
Unless you're Marvel.
Yeah.
In which case they make a fuck ton.
But then, like, you can make a lot more money in stock and things. Like Speaking of stock.
God, that was a perfect segue, Michael. Netflix had a fucking shite week. They lost 10% of their revenue overall.
Their revenue or their stock value?
Their stock value, sorry, 10% of their stock value, because they lost, I think it was 100,000 subscribers in a week.
Oh, God.
You see, they've altered the price plan again. And there's a rolling one coming out across Europe now, as we speak, being rolled out a price up.
You don't want to put a price up when everyone's excited about Disney Plus.
Not a great business strategy. On top of that, their content isn't doing as well as it should be.
Stranger Things was good.
Stranger Things was good, but it's gotten a lot more backlash than previous seasons of Stranger Things.
Has it?
It's quite a few critics have been saying it's lost a little something.
Shut up, critics.
Well, critics don't know much.
Ben, get any of those critics in here and I will wrestle them.
Again, you can't win intellectual debates with physical strength, Michael.
Yes, you can.
You can only silence intellectual debates with physical strength.
You definitely
and
can.
Silence and winning are not the same thing.
That's the problem with the internet. It takes the inherent threat of violence out of every interaction.
It's true.
Very
true.
Someone won't call you a bloody libtard cuck if you're sitting right in front of you.
It's dehumanization. If you're screaming at a little avatar on the screen, it's much easier to be an abusive, racist dickhole.
Yeah, because they won't leap across the table and pull out your windpipe.
Strangle you. You twice tried that with me, Michael, and thanks to my rat-like reflexes, let's be honest, I scuttled up the wall and hit on the roof until you stopped.
You've rat-like reflexes, I've rat-like nipples.
Yeah, we make a good pair. But yeah, basically, because of this very strategy, they also keep being like, would you hate it if we did ads? And everyone is being like, yes.
Yeah, we would, yeah.
And then they try and Chris Hemsworth it by going, really? Would you hate? Go on, try an ad.
Have a little ad.
Try an ad. And people are like, don't you fucking put that ad in my face. And it's I don't know. Their model just doesn't seem to be able to sustain itself. And they're taking on bigger and bigger projects. And I don't know if they're giving the right amount of allotment and budget. And
Ben, they all things like that eventually either become global conglomerate megacorps or fade away. Tears in the rain.
They have to. Speaking of you are just on fire today. Look at you. Unfortunately, this week, Rutger Hauer passed away at 75.
Was it 75?
75.
A decent innings.
Decent innings. Not the best innings.
No.
But decent innings. Interestingly, he died in the year he died in the Blade Runner film, which people are very excited about. And I was like, lads.
Bit grim.
Lads.
Bit dark.
Bit of civility.
He died in 2019 in Blade Runner.
He dies in 2019 in Blade Runner.
Very interesting.
Yeah, isn't it now? It's an odd one, isn't it?
Of course, his best film was Lady Hawk.
What a win. What's Lady Hawk?
Have you never seen Lady Hawk?
Never seen Lady Hawk.
That's your homework, is watch Rutger Hauer's Lady Hawk.
Go watch Lady Hawk.
Unsurprisingly, Ben, and this might be surprising because it's this literal. It's about a lady who can turn into a hawk.
Oddly enough, that tracks.
I think it is, actually. It's been a while. Have I imagined that?
Are we going to watch Lady Hawk
I think we'll watch Lady Hawk after this while we have our Comic-Con production meeting.
Yeah, but the other interesting thing, YouTube's acting the bollocks as well, because they've started putting 2 ads in before their videos.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Don't like it. Not enough. That's too many ads.
Yeah, I don't like ads.
Too many ads. Ads are the whole reason that people went to YouTube and Netflix in the first place.
Well,
Michael.
look, someone will make a new video sharing platform with
and
no
then we'll
ads.
all have to jump over there and get back on the bandwagon and start all over again.
And the circle.
Oh, I saw Lion King.
Oh, did you?
I saw Lion King.
Did you enjoy it?
No,
Why
I
not?
didn't. Well, several reasons. One for one, it's a shot-for-shot remake without any of the charm, as you so aptly pointed out.
Didn't say
None of
without
the
any
colour.
of the charm.
Okay, it has
Less
none
of
of the
the charm,
colour,
less of the
none
joy.
of the expressiveness.
Yeah.
I think Billy Eichner was a terrible replacement for Broadway's Nathan Lane as Timon. I didn't think
disagree
he
with you.
suited.
I think he's almost indistinguishable.
I would strongly disagree with that.
Strongly
Seth Rogen was quite good, though.
Yeah.
They completely changed the lyrics and the tone of Be Prepared, which is my favourite Disney song.
Is Be Prepared not from Mulan?
Sorry?
Be Prepared is from Mulan.
No, Be Prepared is from The Lion King.
Which one is that?
It's the one where he's talking about you won't get a sniff without me. Dum, dum, dum,
Oh,
dum,
with
dum, dum.
the Nazi song.
Yeah, the Nazi song. That one.
Yeah.
Great song at the time because it really highlights how Nazi propaganda works and how fascism takes hold and how populism can really lead to terrible, terrible things.
Mm-hmm.
I think Disney was playing it safe because they didn't want to seem like they were criticizing certain political things.
Oh, DT.
Yeah, because they changed all the lyrics to do with succession and coup and things like that. It was very interesting. But it also lost a lot of the oomph. I missed the colour quite a bit.
Yeah, the colour's important.
Too realistic was your ideal criticism, Michael. What a
Thanks, Ben.
what a perfect.
I went to film critics school.
I know you did, and you nailed it. Where you got your degree by wrestling them all into silence.
Yeah. Tweaking their big nipples.
Tweaking their big nipples.
And they're
And they
futilely
tried to get
grabbling
yours. They're just touching flesh.
Couldn't get a grip.
Couldn't get a nip.
Too small.
Couldn't get a nip. So I went to see that. What are we talking about? Go.
Were there any trailers this week, Ben? Unless, are you finished talking about Lion King, or do you want to talk about Lion King more?
No, I just think it was a very... You're right, though. Disney definitely came to... you say his name. You're much better at than I am.
Who?
Scar.
Tweedle Effigy.
Thank you. It definitely came to him and said, just do Jeremy Irons.
Just do Jeremy Irons.
And I felt bad for him because he's a great actor.
I would like to see when they remake... God damn it. Is Jeremy Irons in the Batman film?
Yeah, he was in. Yeah, he's Alfred.
Yeah, he was Alfred.
Yeah, he
wasn't
was Alfred for 2 movies.
Yeah, I would like to see Tweedle Effigy for recast as Jeremy Irons as Alfred.
In everything he's ever been
just in everything. That'd be good.
Yeah, I'd watch that. I will
Shot for shot remake.
just that.
Just with Tweedle
Just that
Effigy
across
for
the
change.
board. Yeah, definitely needed a colour injection. Definitely needed a bit of oomph. Odd decharacterization of other fan favourites like Rafiki. Rafiki doesn't feature much at all in the new one.
Did he feature a lot? I don't think he did.
But the moments he did, he kind of steals the scene, and each one is kind of this mad shamanistic
Well, he hits the things with the stick.
tribal. Yeah, but it was enjoyable, you know. I do think you were right though. While it is spectacular what they managed to do with the CGI in it, not entirely necessary. I think they forgot the purpose of animation overall. Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I sat there and I was much to my irritation, Michael. I sat there and went, he was right.
I know it was.
He was right.
I know it was.
He was right.
Why are you agreeing with me?
He was right.
Wait, hold on, I'll just get last week me on the phone here and
He
you can
was
agree
right.
with me. Hello? No, he's called me a cock.
Oh, right, okay. Fair enough. That again, that tracks. So there were a couple of trailers this week, Michael, and it's odd because it feels very like we're in the 1990s, Michael.
Rather the 90s back.
There were a series
The Lion King.
There were a series of... Well, I mean, The Lion King
What a
is
segue.
back.
What a segue.
Mulan. Mulan is coming back.
Yep.
Not going to have any of the songs from the original animated film.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if that's a good one. I don't know. That's a good idea.
Well, it seems to be more of a retell. Sorry, I'm not speaking to the mic. It seems to be more of a retelling of the ancient Chinese mythological story now.
Which is fine. Representation and whatnot.
Dragons.
No dragons. Yeah, no dragons.
No Eddie Murphy.
No Mushu. Mushu was a very racist name when you think back to it, wasn't it?
The whole thing is a bit racist, really.
Yeah, it probably is, isn't it?
Go on anyway. Spin
Maybe
your
it's for
wheels
the
there
best
about what you're saying.
No, but we saw 3 unusual teaser trailers and trailers drop this week. 2 of them are a straight blast from the past. One is Rocko's Modern Life is coming back for a Netflix movie. For anyone who doesn't know what that is,
For example, me.
Rocko's Modern Life was a very unusual Nicktoons cartoon from the 1990s, following a wallaby and his best friend.
From the late 90s?
As he tried to navigate, mid to late 90s, 1994. 1994.
Rocko's Modern Life is from 1994.
1994 to 1999, I think.
Get out of here.
Yeah, 4 seasons.
When
4
was-
seasons, 52 episodes.
When was the X-Men the animated series from?
That was 1990. Is that 95?
I don't know.
that
They
95?
don't strike me as...
What a great little collection you've assembled here in front of me,
Assembled
Michael.
a little collection of X-Men in front of you
Yes,
there while you were
I'm
talking.
going to photograph that now and put that up
They don't...
somewhere.
They don't strike... Here, I'll put Wolverine.
Oh, get him in there.
They don't strike me as contemporaries.
No, they would have been very different. As I said, Michael, one was pitched on Nicktoons, and probably what made it very unusual is very adult themed, and slipped its way onto Nicktoons. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later, Michael.
Did Rocko's Modern Life kind of follow on in the vein of a kind of toned down Ren and Stimpy?
I would say yes, but I would argue that those two creators want nothing to do with each other. And we'll get to that a little bit later as well. I like that you've given them all action poses, Michael, here in
Well,
front of
that's their action figures then.
But Fox Kids, which was the way that I saw 1990s X-Men, was much more child-orientated and very much in keeping with children. Nicktoons pushed the envelope quite a bit, but we'll come to that later, Michael. Don't want to spoil anything. Speaking of Nicktoons, Michael,
Go on.
another trailer that got dropped this week is we're going to see an Invader Zim movie.
Again, man, I'm not really au fait with Invader Zim.
And that's okay. We have talked about that before. It was created by a guy who used to write Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, which was a kind of a cult comic back in the day. And Invader Sim featured around, quite frankly, the most incompetent alien overlord one could ever meet. Very unusual humour, very wacky, kind of the beginning of the flash animation industry in cartoons that we see today, the hand-drawn style being slowly panned out.
But they all of these shows, they use flash animation but often ape the hand-drawn style, don't they?
Yeah, well, they tried to mimic it as best as possible because it was more efficient to use flash animation and try to mimic that style. But the thing you lose most, Michael, is the L motion blur.
Oh.
You need your motion blurs to help with that. But anyway, we won't get into that. But that's making a comeback as well, much to the delight of the internet. He was a cult classic. And the same with Rocko's Modern Life. So we're really kind of appealing to niche audiences. And another thing that appeals to niche audiences on a much larger level, I suppose, is Steven Universe is getting a movie.
I don't know what Steven Universe is.
Steven Universe is all about the gemstones, Michael. The gemstones. We are the
Infinity
crystal
Stones.
gems. No. Way after Jim Starlin did his run on Thanos, a lovely young creator called Rebecca Sugar, who came from the Cal art scene.
Is that her real name?
There's a question for you, isn't it? I'm not. No, it is her name. It's Rebecca Sugar, but I'm not sure it's her real name. It seems far too ideal for what is, quite frankly, a twee cartoon with some great messaging and role modeling involved. Lovely animation, but it's getting a movie with a grown-up Steven from Steven Universe. I'm going to tell you all about that
You tell me about it.
as we progress, because today's topic, Michael, and it got me thinking, is, my goodness, how far have cartoons come since the early days of Saturday morning cartoons?
Right, go on.
And the reason that got me thinking, Michael, is those three, as mentioned below, or above, depends on what way you think of time.
Do you use the Chinese method where above is before and below is after?
Yeah, or you could use the African cyclical time cycle, which is never ending.
Circle
Of life,
circle
exactly.
of life.
That's interestingly where Afrofusion. It doesn't matter. It's not relevant to today's topic. But so it got me thinking about how Saturday morning cartoons have altered massively over the years, and those three being key examples of kind of watershed moments for a lot of cartoons. So, Michael,
Go on.
With that in mind,
That's
what we're going to talk about today.
Now, Ben, I'm going to interrupt you because I think that your what's wrong with you?
I was kicking a cable under the thing. I wanted to make sure it wasn't one of your action figures.
Are we starting here from the mid-90s when you were a youth?
Yes, we're probably going to look at that era. That will be my main focus, Michael, as I am a mid-90s child.
Because, Ben, if we go back a couple of steps...
Go on.
Your Saturday morning cartoons were often made to sell comics.
Well, why don't you tell me about that, Michael?
Well, you know, your Spider-Man's. Your Spider-Man where he has one pose.
Your Spooderman.
Your early Spider-Man comics. And then your late 70s comics for the Super Friends, etc.
Voltron.
Voltron. Well,
That was
Super Friends
later.
and Voltron are separate things because, Ben, in the toy collecting community, which, as you know, I'm quite a big member of.
You are? No, I wouldn't have known that, Michael. What do you mean?
Particularly in the kind of media-related, the media spin-off of toys thing.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's say in the Transformers community,
Sure.
the Transformers fandom, there's a very important expression.
Right.
And that expression is to sell toys.
Okay.
And
Not the most creative expression in the world.
no, but that is the answer to many, 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 many questions.
As in, why would they do that?
To sell toys. Like, for example, if you were to ask the question, Ben, why did they kill off all of the most popular cast of the Transformers in the Transformers movie in 1986?
Can I take a stab at this?
Go on, have a quick go.
Is it to sell toys?
It's to sell toys. Ben, why do the Teenage Mutant Ninja or Hero Turtles have so many... Do you know about that?
No.
Teenage Mutant... Originally they were called the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right.
But in the UK, there was a controversy in the mid to late 80s about ninjas.
Why?
Because there was a moral panic.
Oh,
There was a moral panic
I love a
about-
good moral panic.
Yeah, there was a moral panic about, East Asian violence entering
For the
popular
love of God.
culture. And lots of things were banned. Shurikens were banned.
Oh,
Nunchucks were banned.
mall ninja shit.
You basically, you couldn't buy things with ninjas in them.
That's
So-
probably what stopped the neckbeard community from taking a real hold in the UK. So, go.
Maybe. Ben, we're not in the UK.
Oh, shit. Well, that was a political faux pas.
Wow, Ben. Oh, yes, hold on one second.
Oh.
Yes, Boris. Yes, no, he's here. No, yes, he is looking to take up a cabinet position. It's for you, Ben.
They actually let me in. He seems to be letting anybody in. Anyway, we're not a political podcast.
What was
Moving
I
on from there. To sell toys.
To sell toys. Yeah. So if, Ben, let's say nunchucks are banned, right? And shurikens are banned, and things about ninjas cause a moral panic.
Yes.
That's going to cause a big problem when your main goal is
To sell toys.
to sell toys. So when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when that was exported to the UK, it was edited to Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. And every reference to the word ninja was edited out.
Heroes with a half shell.
Turtle power.
So that was always the original lyric,
Yeah.
but obviously they just went with that.
Apparently in the original song, they're the world's most fearsome ninja teens. But in the British one, it was they're the world's most fearsome fighting teens.
Which some would argue from a literary perspective,
It's better.
It's better.
Funnily enough, Ben, here in jolly old Ireland, we got season 1 unedited.
It's a wrong collocation.
Jolly old Ireland. People say that.
Say that all the
It's the
time.
thing people say. We got season 1 unedited
Oh.
of the Turtles, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then when season 2 rolled around, we got the British version.
I wasn't allowed to watch the Teenage Mutant Hero Ninja Turtles
Why was that?
because it was violent.
There
My
you
mother
go,
had a
Ben.
moral panic.
Your mother had an East Asian ninja moral panic.
And she wouldn't let me watch Power Rangers.
There you go.
It's very interesting.
Isn't it? That's why,
that.
Ben. That's what was happening at that period in life. People were real concerned about how lethal nunchucks were. They're 2 bits of wood all stuck together with a
Unless
chain.
you have the correct training, there's not a hope.
Even if you do, they're not as dangerous as a knife or a stick. You just bait him with a
A
stick.
Dacian stick.
Bait him with a stick.
You
So, in
go
fact,
out there and get me a Dacian stick and I'll take care of this now.
everyone's favourite turtle, Ben, Michelangelo, his weapons were nunchucks. But they were edited out of the UK version.
What?
Completely. Anytime he used the nunchucks, it was edited out.
What do you mean it was edited? What did you use instead?
You didn't see him fighting.
2 bananas.
2 bananas on it. So in season 3, the Americans went, oh, for God's sake. Oh, God damn it, guys. God damn it. We're trying
We
to
get
sell
our heads out of our asses, please.
We're trying to sell toys here. And they had to reimagine Michelangelo to use a kind of shell-shaped grappling hook. Yeah. Because he couldn't have his nunchucks
To sell toys.
to sell toys.
That's a great phrase. I like that.
See?
Yeah.
Do you see in the early 80s, I think,
Yes.
there was a relaxation on broadcasting law.
And so moral panic wasn't as...
No, moral panic was still there, but in the early 80s there was a relaxation on permission to advertise to kids. You were for the first time in the 80s on TV, you were allowed to make TV programs specifically
to sell toys.
To sell toys, there you go.
I'm getting it slowly.
That's where we got Ben. And think of all of these franchises that exist purely to sell toys.
Okay.
Transformers.
Those have toys.
They were toys first.
Those were toys.
Exactly. More Masters of the Universe.
Those have toys.
Yes, they were toys first, Ben.
Those had toys.
No.
They were toys. This is a tough bit to do because I'm not really...
Yeah, Brave Star.
Was that a toy first?
Yeah.
Oh.
But you see...
What?
Yeah. Brave Star on the planet New Texas.
New Texas.
In a faraway place, in a distant time, in a faraway place on the planet New Texas, floats deep in space. Brave Star.
Do you know what I found, which was really cool after we did that little bit on our other podcast, Collecting Issues?
Go on.
There's a guy in Russia who did a whole concept art series for Brave Star, the live action adaptation.
That'd be good.
Very cool.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Very cool. Oh my God, what a call!
Yeah.
Are we doing a Brave Star pitch next week?
Let's do it next week.
Let's do a Brave Star pitch next week.
Oh, that'd be
great.
great.
Definitely doing that. Oh,
so
sold.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. No, what was I saying? Yeah, so all of these shows were made specifically to sell toys. That's why they existed. That's why they have mad plots. That's why they have. But because they were in kind of deep trouble with, you're kind of towing the line here morally between is the children entertainment or are you just selling toys?
You're just selling toys there, lads.
That's why they all have morals. That's why every episode is some sort of moral lesson.
Oh, because it has to be wholesome advertising for kids.
So that the parents don't realise it's advertising for kids.
It's harmless.
Yeah. So for me, Ben,
Yes.
the watershed moment was in the later 90s when cartoons started coming out that weren't necessarily... Well, maybe I have misinterpreted, but they weren't necessarily to sell toys.
No, they definitely weren't, Michael. They definitely weren't. You had the new school of animators who had fallen in love with animation for many, many years, and they were now making projects as an artistic expression as opposed to necessarily a thing. But you also had the rise of two very big networks in the 90s that became huge, and that was Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. That was the sound they used to make. And it took me years to figure out what a Nickelodeon was. It was a little entertainment box they had way back in the day. Yeah. So it was a very clever name, really, when you think about it. But yeah, they came out, and basically they had this wave of cartoons that came out with them. And interestingly, I suppose what's very different from cartoons in the 90s compared to cartoons in the 80s to sell toys. Thundercats. Toys first?
All of them were toys first.
All of them were toys first.
That was the whole point. They existed to sell toys.
Well, that definitely stopped in the early 90s, because if we take a look at the list of different things that we had... What's the Visionaries?
Visionaries was a kind of slightly bigger than G.I. Joe size action figure line based around the gimmick of holograms.
Oh, well, I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
That sounds very gimmicky. But what we had, Michael, and what we saw in the early 90s is something that you will probably be very familiar with.
Ring Raiders.
Yeah, what we saw in the 90s, and something you're probably very familiar with, is one of the ones that we both know is Powerpuff Girls, which we've talked about before.
Yeah, I like the Powerpuff Girls.
Powerpuff Girls came from Cartoon Network, and other ones that came from Cartoon Network at this time would have been Dexter's Laboratory.
Yeah.
Would have been Cow and Chicken. Do you remember Cow and Chicken?
Vaguely.
Yeah, it was very odd.
Dog?
You would have had... Now, see, so that's where we jump over to Nickelodeon.
Oh, that's Nickelodeon. Okay.
And I suppose one of the things that really separated Cartoon Network from Nickelodeon...
Yeah.
At least in those early days, is Cartoon Network stuck very much with their traditional model of children's narrative. So Dexter's Laboratory had your two goofy parents, your annoying younger sister, and Dexter was the wackiest character in that show, and he was unusual and misunderstood. Powerpuff Girls is a superhero story, but it is a family story more than anything else, where the three sisters get on, and the professor is there, and he tries to help them out with different things.
And there's a sexy secretary.
And there's a sexy... Miss Bell. Miss Bell. You can only see her from the legs up. Legs down. Sorry, legs down. Even better. But yeah, anyway. Cow and Chicken was one of the wackier ones that came out. And that came out in direct competition with Nicktoons. Because Nicktoons took a completely different tact.
They said, let's be wacky.
Yeah, they weren't interested in that kind of serious moral tone. Because the Cartoon Network shows did have a moral at the end of each one. You would have things like Johnny Bravo. And Johnny Bravo was hilarious because he would constantly hit on women. I happened to take it the wrong way and base my entire life on the Johnny Bravo way of living.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
But the moral was not to be a creep. Like he would
Was that the
consistently...
moral of Johnny Bravo?
Kind of, because he would consistently fail, and he would have his little friend who knew that Johnny had a heart of gold, and she would always tell him, just be yourself, Johnny, just do it this way. And he was like, no, can't do it. Hey, pretty mama. And then he'd go off and he'd hit on somebody and do it that way. Now, I just ignored the little girl as well, and that's how I spend my life. And it's fine, it's grand, but Cartoon Network certainly wouldn't have seen it that way. But Nicktoons, on the other hand, went the exact opposite direction. So from Nicktoons, you had things like Real Monsters, which is really bizarre.
Ben, look, I have to say, if you're going to say the name of that show, say it with a bit of energy. Please don't say, Real Monsters.
Okay. Fair enough. So for anyone listening, I'm going to block my hand because it's going to get very loud.
Don't shout. Just say it with energy.
So it's, Real Monsters. And I can't do it properly. But that was about a series of monsters who lived in the sewers and were training to be the best monsters they could be.
In a lot of ways, it was kind of a precursor to Monsters, Inc.
In many ways,
absolutely. It came out after.
No, it came out well before Monsters Inc.
Very creepy.
Very creepy. Very in the style of Tim Burton. And I think probably trying to capitalise on the success of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Wasn't there like a kind of cane, a candy cane thing?
Candy cane lady that would slither around things and she could transform her body.
Lips.
And then there was the other strange armpit man who held his eyes in his two hands.
Yeah.
And then there was the little elf goblin-y thing that was there with them as well.
They were a lot more unsettling than the monsters from Monsters Inc.
Yes, they were terrible. Then we had Cat Dog. Cat Dog was very unusual, about a Siamese twin hybrid of a cat and a dog.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense biologically.
And their adventures, and that was very, very strange. We had some lesser ones like Rugrats. Rugrats is a classic.
How is Rugrats
lesser wacky. Sorry, lesser wacky.
No, Rugrats is probably the most famous of all the cartoons you just mentioned.
It definitely is, actually, now that you mention it.
Lesser ones.
We had things like Angry Beavers.
You're an Angry Beaver.
No! And which I really, really loved. You don't remember Angry Beavers?
Vaguely.
Yeah, it was a great show.
Ben, you have to remember that we're talking... How old was I here? When did these come out?
These would have been mid-90s.
So I'm like 16, 17 at this stage.
Oh, you're more than old enough to do cartoons if you wanted to. You just didn't commit. You should have guessed that you'd be doing a podcast in 20 years' time.
I was watching Spider-Man, the animated series.
That's very good.
X-Men,
very good.
The animated series.
You were a Fox Kids kid.
I wasn't so much as they were what was on RTE.
Just a little superhero nerd. It's okay.
They were on
totally fine.
RTE.
That's what was on RTE. And then we saw a slight progression there, and then we get wacky. Then Ren and Stimpy comes along.
Ren and Stimpy are after all of those other ones.
And Rocko's Modern Life comes along.
Hold on. I think your timeline's off there.
My timeline is off. This isn't read in chronological order. This is 90s.
For God's sake, okay.
But what marks
we're going in increasing order of wackiness.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
The way that Ren and Stimpy and Rocko's Modern Life are aimed at, and their target demographic is completely different. Mm-hmm. Now they're aiming at that teenage demographic that they've been losing, and they're trying to get those people back in. And Ren and Stimpy is insane. I don't know if you've ever watched it.
I have. It's very uncomfortable.
Unnerving, uncomfortable, odd thing. Mm-hmm. And it became kind of the definition of that era. It kind of and it has a huge cult following, but for the life of me I can't understand why. It's unsettling, and it's the same with Rocko's Modern Life, but Rocko's Modern Life was a little bit more focused on story and plot, whereas Ren and Stimpy was very much whatever we can think of goes. So you had like Cinnamon Toast Man, who was like a weird superhero who flew people around on his butt. But I think without shows like Ren and Stimpy and Rocko's Modern Life, we never would have gotten to something like SpongeBob.
Oh, I was going to say SpongeBob, Ben.
SpongeBob was 2000s. You learned the technique. You've been watching videos this week because he's been doing the rounds to promote something new. Tom Kenny, yeah. He's promoting something new. But yeah, that's his famous voice. Oh, he's doing a new series. That's what it is. And there's uproar about that because it's against Steven Hillenburg's wishes.
A new series of what?
SpongeBob spin-off.
Oh.
And Steven Hillenburg asked for that not to happen.
Who's Steven Hillenburg?
The creator of SpongeBob SquarePants, and he passed away this year.
Did he?
Yeah, he passed away this year, and his express wish was not to do any more SpongeBob things. He wanted to leave it as a perfect series. And Nickelodeon is now going directly against that wish and making a spin-off.
A spin-off?
A spin-off. It's called Camp Something, where he becomes a camp counselor on some ridiculous thing. I don't know. Anyway, that's not really relevant to what we're doing here today. But what unites all these different things is that wacky tone begins to bleed between the two. And Nicktoons during the 90s is definitely the more dominant of the two cartoon networks.
More dominant. It's the more dominant Cartoon Network than Cartoon Network.
Which is unusual, isn't it? But we then see a progression, and we see them start to mimic each other far more. So Cartoon Network then starts to produce things like Ed, Edd and Eddy, and The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and they come a little bit later in the 90s, and they really do mark a departure from what they were doing before. Now we're focused on wacky at Cartoon Network, and over at Nickelodeon we see shows like Doug and Hey Arnold, and they mark, I think...
There was a series about people with funny shaped heads.
Yes, exactly. Football head for Arnold, and I can't remember what they say about Doug. But
Isn't Doug's hair part of his head or something?
He's a bit of a dweeb or something like that, yeah.
It was like a weird haircut.
But oddly enough, I think Hey Arnold and Doug have been two of the most influential on this era's cartoons, and we'll get to that a little bit later. The big difference between Hey Arnold and Doug was that they focused on normal life and the normal tribulations of a young man, in this particular case, in these two series.
And that girl with the monobrow.
And what they go through. Patty Mayonnaise. That was her name.
She was a monobrow.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's Helga. That's Helga Pataki. Come on, get your head in the
I don't know. I haven't
Helga
seen
Pataki
these
from
things.
Hey Arnold. Anyway, that was a very different thing. So, once Cartoon Network realizes that the wacky model is quite successful, they start to produce all these new cartoons, and they go in a really different direction. Invader Zim was kind of the last, or the beginning of this wave over at Nicktoons, and then that Flash animation style makes the transition to Cartoon Network, and we get Courage the Cowardly Dog, The Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and what was the other one I mentioned just there?
Ben 10.
I've lost it now. Where's it gone?
Ben 10. Ben Tennyson.
Ben 10 came much later to sell toys, but in reverse. This time the show was made first, but then it became something that was just used to sell toys.
That's definitely wrong, Ben.
No, it's Man of Action series. They launched the series first, and then very quickly...
No, Ben 10 was definitely made to sell toys.
Oh, it's definitely made to sell toys, but I'm saying they launched the show first and then the toys.
Well, you see, the thing is, they probably designed toys first.
Oh, that's what I mean. I'm not saying
like a lot of these shows that I was talking about earlier, they launched the show first.
Okay.
But
in that case, it follows your model.
But they launched it
directly,
fully knowing we have these toys and we need... The original plan with Turtles was to sell Turtles action figures.
Okay.
But the people who made them, was it Mattel? Playmates? I can't remember. They were like, look, we're not going to sell these. We've made them. They're cool. But they're not going to sell based on the 100,000 people who are buying this comic.
Yeah.
Make us a cartoon. They made a cartoon.
That's how we sell.
To sell toys. But the toys were already there. And there's no doubt in my mind that's what they did with Ben 10.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you can look that up there. But the other things that we saw then is that we pushed more things. Samurai Jack came in on Cartoon Network, which is just a fantastic show in its own way and quite different from the rest. But Cartoon Network begins to dominate then with this new wave of cartoons. Your Ben 10s, your Rex Generator.
I have never heard of that.
Things like that. What, Ben 10?
I've clearly heard of Ben 10. There's 4 arms up there.
Have you got 4 arms up there?
See him
look, there he is. What's he doing up there?
He's behind Daryl Dixon.
What's he doing? That is literally Mick's Island of Misfit Toys. It's literally
There's a Gundam.
Oh, for God's sake. This is the things that he's corrected
Daryl
over time.
Dixon. Yeah.
But I think one of the...
Lego Marty McFly.
So all the cult animation of the 1990s is starting to be put into Cartoon Network. So things like The Critic or Tick, Rocko's Modern Life, they take all those lessons and they start to push them in to Cartoon Network. And Nickelodeon takes the opposite.
James Bond Jr.
Maybe. Nickelodeon takes the opposite tact with that, and they reduce their cartoon platform and they begin to push their teen shows.
Their teen live
from
action.
Dan Schneider. And Dan Schneider, as we all know, is a real bad egg now.
Is he?
Oh yeah, he was done for all kinds of serious Me Too stuff. But we'll do that in a different episode because we're keeping it light and breezy.
What did he do? Lizzie McGuire?
No, he did iCarly. He did Zoe 101. I don't know if you.
I don't know. I don't know any of these.
Zoe 101, iCarly. He did
Hannah
Victorious.
Montana.
He did Hannah Montana. No, he didn't. He didn't do Hannah Montana. That's Disney. Don't mess up my head.
Was that Disney?
That was Disney. Yeah. But yeah, he did all those. And he was big on that. He was part of... Drake and Josh is the big one that he did. That you might have heard of. He was responsible for Zendaya in some form because he had one of the shows with her.
Was she not Disney?
The other girl. It depends. They've jumped around.
I don't know.
There's a couple of contract jumps as we go along. But...
Oh, go on.
The two focus on their separate things. And I think what's missing... and what was always missing from that 90s era of cartoons is there's no continuity. There's no character growth. they are traditional cartoons in that they reset every week for the new episode.
Well, except Spider-Man.
Except Spider-Man is not part of this 90s Saturday morning cartoon.
Yes, it
thing.
is.
Not at the moment, it isn't.
It is.
Hush you. Just stay out of it.
Bloody
right?
X-Men.
Just hush, wished. Would you give
X-Men
over?
was all about
Would you
character
give over?
development.
We're going to have to do a part 2 on this because I'm not even anywhere near done on this thing because you
Bloody
keep talking about toys.
X-Men. Bloody X-Men.
But the wackiness in the Cartoon Network shows has taken off in a huge way.
Right.
But it's lacking some kind of heart and soul.
Oh, that's your opinion.
Well, it's my opinion, and that's absolutely fine. But
No, it isn't.
There's a reason that the new... Okay. There's the reason that the new wave of cartoons from Cartoon Network from the mid to late 2000s has become so massive. And
Right.
why the fan base for these shows has become so huge. In part because the internet is now widely used.
What are they?
And sub-communities. So I would argue that the new wave of animation that we see is Adventure Time, beginning with Adventure Time.
People like that.
Regular Show, Steven Universe, Gravity Falls.
Yeah.
These are new cartoons, which are wacky
Newish.
and unusual. That's what I mean. Mid 2000s to mid 2000s,
All right.
2013s, etc. We have things like Star versus the Forces of Evil, which is one that you might not have heard, but you almost certainly have.
I haven't heard of it.
Okay, Star versus the Forces of Evil. That's one you and your good lady will undoubtedly enjoy if you're Gravity Falls fans. That was Disney's successor to Gravity Falls.
Oh.
And these have kind of come along, and they're doing phenomenally well as shows. And you'll hear fans talk about it with a kind of reverence when they talk about these different shows. And there has to be something different about those shows because people love those early 2000s cartoons, but they weren't formative in the same way. And I think somewhere along the way...
Hold on. Formative in the same way to who?
You don't have the same kind of fan bases for The Grim Adventures of Billy Mandy or Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Well, I don't know. You wait 5 years and wait till the kids who grew up with those are 25.
But you have that kind of fan base now with Adventure Time, Steven Universe, and the regular show.
Because they tap into the nostalgia for the other shows.
Are you sure about that?
Well, a lot of adults are watching them, aren't
Yeah,
they?
but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But why is that such a shift? That's what I wanted to look at. Why do you think that shift happens? And I think, generally speaking, it's because they put a lot more effort into character development and kind of the arc of the character more than anything. One of the prime examples would be Steven Universe.
Go on.
Steven Universe centers around the aforementioned eponymous Steven Universe.
Are you saying Steven Universe or Steve in Universe?
No, Steven Universe.
Steve is
the
in
name.
the universe.
No, Steven, Steven.
Like when Wikipedia says this article is written from an in-universe perspective. Please edit it.
No, it's not.
Steve in Universe.
No, it's Steven Universe.
Right.
Did you enjoy that? Did you have a bit of crack there?
That was pretty
Did
funny.
you enjoy it? Yeah.
I mean, it tickled my funny bone. I don't know how else.
Well, listeners, let us know down below. Was Mick funny or not funny? You can comment down below. Listen, we don't have a lot of time.
No, go on.
left.
Finish
You want
what
me to
you were
try
saying.
and finish it up?
No,
Okay.
no, not the whole thing. Just what you were saying there before.
So, Steven Universe is a prime example.
Steve in Universe.
Yes, exactly.
I gotcha.
Fucking monster. Steven Universe is a prime example of that because it centers around a young man who's grown up without his mother. And what sets him apart is he's perfectly allowed to be upset, unhappy, or just generally not feeling it.
That's all fine.
From day to day. It's not fine.
That's all fine.
Yeah, it's all fine. But it wouldn't have been the marker of a cartoon prior to that. And it introduced a new world. And it's the same with Finn from Adventure Time. We saw a character who started out as just a swashbuckling kind of typical teen protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
And over the many series that followed, we've seen a lot of emotional development, especially from male characters. I feel like female characters probably get a bit overlooked in that regard.
That suits you, doesn't it?
What, overlooked female characters?
Yeah.
Only on Friday nights, Michael.
Oh, Jesus.
But yeah. Generally speaking, they get quite a bad look in on that kind of thing. And I suppose that may be because a lot of female characters are often told that they can be weak or flawed, etc.
If they want.
If they want to be, whereas male characters have always lacked that. So I think what's causing that shift in the narrative for a lot of cartoons is what I would call the growing man-child epidemic, where men are allowed to grapple with those more complex feelings, which wouldn't have been given a voice on television. And it's interesting to see that development. But we'll finish it.
Yeah.
either next week or the week after, because we might have
next
to
week
do
we're
a
talking
Brave
about
Star
bloody Brave
pitch.
Star.
I think we're actually going to do a
To
Brave Star pitch.
go and write a movie from scratch.
I'd fucking watch that. But yeah, I think we're going to have to do a Brave Star pitch. But yeah, so I think it's interesting to see that development. Let us know down below. Do you watch any of the new wave of animation, and were you a big fan of any of the old wave of 90s animation?
I liked X-Men. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Yeah, you did once or twice, but it's good to say it again. But let us know if you're watching any of the ones that we mentioned there: Adventure Time, Steven Universe, Regular Show, Gravity Falls.
Steve in Universe.
Yeah, Steve in Universe. That's what it is. For any of my other listeners, you know that Michael's a buffoon, and that's not accurate at all. But let us know what you thought overall.
Did you just call them your listeners?
Yeah.
Our listeners, Ben, you son of a bitch.
Not if I have anything to say about it. But yeah, let us know down below what you think of the new wave of cartoons. If you're a cartoon fan, if you're not a cartoon fan, how many action figures do you have?
Yeah, and do you think that it is better to write a Wikipedia article from an in-universe perspective or from an encyclopedia perspective?
If you're going to be at Dublin Comic Con 2 weeks from now, do come and see us. Let us know down below if you think it's going to be. Our good friend Cron has already let us know. We'll see you there, Cron. He's going to be in as a punter on the Saturday.
Cron gave us a lot of comics to review for our other podcast, Collecting Issues,
which we'll definitely have to take a look at. Also, if you haven't had enough Michael and Benjamin's podcast this week,
what's wrong with you?
Check out Wednesday, where we'll have a brand new Collecting Issues, and this time it's about a series that was made to sell toys.
Well, this one wasn't, but we'll talk about that on Wednesday.
Oh, you're a monster. Anyway, if you want to get in touch with us, if you want to see any of our other stuff, take a look at seomrabeag.com. That's SEOMRA Beag, BEAG.com.
It means small room in Irish.
Small room in Irish, and you can find us there. Stay tuned, because we'll have a lot more Comic-Con content coming up. You can check all that out on our various places. If you
YouTube, probably.
Yeah, YouTube, probably. If you don't fancy getting in touch with us on our website, we have an iTunes too. We have an Instagram.
I thought iTunes didn't exist anymore.
We have. I mean, it doesn't. This is the most annoying thing. So technically, iTunes isn't real anymore, but you can find us on the Apple Podcasts app and give us a review there. Every review helps.
Shoot us a bloody email, except the bad ones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can shoot us a bad email. Just direct it to Ben. Yeah. Because they're usually directed at me, aren't they, Michael?
Yeah. You can just direct it to Ben at Michaelandbenjaminspodcast or Cooklord at Michaelandbenjaminspodcast.
Boom.
They're not real addresses.
Anyway, that's it from us this week. Bye.
Bye. Where's the cursor? God damn it.